Episode 6. I'm Cade Crackenster alongside Coach Geiser and former head coach Gary Keller. To the both of you, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, glad to be here.
And you know, Coach Geiser, it's a different one today. We had Coach Owens on a couple weeks back. Now we got Coach Keller. You know, getting all the old coaches back together. Exactly.
Well, when you have a place with great tradition and with good people, you want to keep them a part of the program. And Coach Keller's been a friend for a number of years, and a heck of a football coach, and even better man.
Yeah. And Coach Keller, I got to ask you to start. What do you think, Coach Geiser here, and what he's done at the helm?
Oh, they haven't missed a step. Their program is just taken off. Impressed. I'm very impressed with the job he's done over the years.
I love it. And Coach Geiser, you know, we've got an action-packed episode here today for everybody. You know, a lot of things coming your way. Who's coming on the show today?
Well, we got offensive coordinator and quarterback coach Tom Stacy will be joining us today. Fifth-year senior, four-year starter at left tackle. Nick Walker is going to join us. Obviously, Coach Keller will have him back on the segment as well. And I believe Dusty Sloan is going to join us at some point, from what I heard a rumor of that. So.
That's going to be big for us, getting Dusty on. But to you, Coach Keller, you know, come on the show as well, getting an opportunity to talk to the fans and whatnot. And another thing that we'll talk about is kind of the history of Ashland University, specifically homecoming as well, which is coming up this weekend. Before we dive into everything, what has homecoming meant to you and Ashland as a whole?
Well, I think homecoming for me and for the players was a great time because there were so many different things that the university have done around the program itself. Getting to see our players come back and their families and what's happening with them and how they're growing and that kind of thing, and then having them see what's happening at the university, and the changes that we have made over the years, and all the good things that are going on. So that's been a key, and I think that in itself was the big thing about homecoming. Our kids, so many people came, families were there, you know, the kids wanted to play hard and make their parents and fans happy.
Exactly. So this year will be the 101st homecoming as well. So we'll dive into all that in today's episode. To give you a bit of a structure on what to expect today, we'll have our previous game recap with our AUTV and WRDL correspondents coming up next, followed by our sponsored segment, then our coaches interview, our player interview, our interview with Gary Keller specifically, then our homecoming and Thomas More preview, and then we'll conclude the show. We've got a lot coming your way here soon. As a reminder, you don't want to miss out on any of it, so stay tuned through it all right here. You're watching Year 3, Episode 6 of the Doug Geiser Show right here on the Eagle Network.
What's up, GMAC fans? I'm Katie Gahuli, host of the Talkin' GMAC podcast. We hope you'll join us each week for all things GMAC, from interviews with current and former student athletes to headlines and highlights from around the league. Find the Talkin' GMAC podcast on the Great Midwest Digital Network or wherever you get your podcasts. Back here for the Doug Geiser Show, where we are now joined with Coach. I am WRDL correspondent Louis Tamira.
And I am I'm AUTV correspondent Bryce Gatton.
And Coach, it is now time to break down this past week's Kentucky Wesleyan 55-0 victory. And starting it off, that dominant win over Kentucky Wesleyan. Before we question you on our takeaways from the game, your biggest takeaways from the game.
I thought all three phases of the game contributed in a large measure. You start with the defense pitching a shutout, but in order to get the shutout, special teams had to block a field goal, which they did, and then special teams scored twice their own with a punt return for a touchdown and a punt block for a touchdown. And offense got the run game going on a pretty consistent level, so it's the three-headed monster was able to be very successful on Saturday.
Yeah, now taking a look at the offense, you guys produced a total of 503 yards as a unit. How much of a confidence booster is that for you guys to have such a strong performance like that?
Well, as a coach, believe it or not, you look at what you didn't do. So, we didn't punt, which is good. It's the first time all year we haven't punted in a game. But, first half, I thought they came out and took care of business. They didn't let the other team breathe. They kept the pressure on them the whole time, whether it was the run game or the pass game. And that's always good. When you can finish any drive with a kick, that's usually good. Now in the second half, I know if we lost our focus a little bit, had a couple turnovers, whatever the case might be. So as a coach, I'm always looking at that part of it. But you look at it on the whole, it was a very, very productive day for the offense.
Okay, now taking a look at the rushing attack, they accounted for 5 touchdowns. How have they really grown together as the season has progressed in the room?
Well, it's nice to have a lot of competition. You start out, with Ty Stevenson and Lando Camara are back from last year and had a stellar season. You had somebody like a Wiltrell Hartson, all of a sudden the competition in the room goes up. And so what it means is if you get an opportunity in a game, you got to show, you got to perform, you got to pop. And then today, hopefully now they're feeling a little bit of pressure from Chris Maloney, who came in the fourth quarter and rushed for almost 100 yards. So when you have a four-headed monster like that, it makes it great as a coach because, the competition will be high and i.e. the production is going to be very, very high.
So now shifting our focus to defense, I do want to highlight Sam Wakula. Had a great game, 6 tackles, tackle for loss, sack, and the pass breakup. But more focused on this linebacking unit as a whole, what do they kind of fit as the analogy, if you will, for the defense? Are they the anchor, or what would you refer to them as?
I would say in a lot of respects they're the leaders overall. They make sure that we get the calls in, we're in the right defense, we're in the right coverage, and everything's coordinated. And then they're also kind of an eraser. So if they got plug the leaks in the run game, if there's a gap that's open, you do that and account for it there. But oh, by the way, in pass coverage, you've also got to protect your portion right there, whether you're rushing the passer or whether you're actually dropping in coverage. So they are kind of the rock in the middle, and I would say in a lot of respects very much like a quarterback.
That's awesome. Now, as a whole, it was a shutout, 55-0. The last time you guys shut somebody out was 2022 against Walsh, 35-0. I'm sure you remember that game. What is the difference in feeling of a shutout versus a win where you give up some points?
It's probably more than anything the ego boost is if you can look on the other side and there's an old adage if the other team doesn't score you can't lose, and so at that point right there hey, and this knowing it hadn't been done for a couple of years, it's just something there that makes you feel good that the plan came together, and if we do follow the plan and execute, this is the result that could happen.
Absolutely.
Now, shifting to kind of what's coming up, it's 101st homecoming mentioned in the first segment. What does this mean to the team and you guys, and does it add or change anything to your game day preparation?
It doesn't change anything other than the fact that halftime is usually 5 minutes longer. That's it. We'll talk about homecoming. We'll talk about the tradition of homecoming. For me, it's kind of nice and neat to see old faces come back and get a chance to reconnect with them and with our coaching staff. But more than anything else, I usually encourage those players to come on the field after the game, because in a lot of respects, I want them to meet the guys that are on the team now. They are basically the same guys. We're recruiting the same guys, different faces, different names, but they're the same guys. And I want our current players to meet the former players, to feel that brotherhood through the years. That's something special that we have, that not a lot of people can have. We like to celebrate that.
All right, and then wrapping it up, you kind of talked about it there just a minute ago, but as we turn this page into homecoming week after this 55-0 win, you talked about that ego boost. How do we turn the page and, from a coaching standpoint, get your team ready to come back off of that 55-0 win and not be too ego boosted?
Well, for us, whether it's off of a win or off of a loss, we turn the page on Sunday. So yesterday we already turned the page at 4 o'clock. We don't talk about, other than the coaches show here, we don't talk about Kentucky Wesleyan anymore. We can't do anything about it. The game's in the books. And by the way, if we're thinking about it, putting energy towards that, we are being very disrespectful towards a very dangerous Thomas More team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we got to put all our energy and focus towards them in the preparation.
I like that answer. That's definitely a great standpoint to have. And like you always say, want to know every week.
Want to know every week. Yep, it's a mantra we live by.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Coach, for taking your time and sitting
Absolutely.
down with us here. Coming up soon, we'll continue more with lots of guests here on the Doug Geiser Show, right here on the Eagle Network.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 6. I'm Cade Krackus, joined alongside Doug Geiser, and now it's time for our sponsored segment. A representative from Farmers State Bank, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yep, my name is Dave Grant with Farmers State Bank here in Ashland. We are headquartered out of West Salem, but I have offices here in Ashland, Worcester, Rittman, and Marshallville.
Awesome. So, obviously, first and foremost, I'd like to talk about, the connection to Ashland University and the ability for you guys to, I guess you could say, connect with the community to an extent. What does it mean to, connect with a program like Ashland football?
It means a lot. We've been connected to the program for a couple years now as a sponsorship, and it means a lot to help out and the team and attend the games and do what we can.
Exactly. And Coach Geiser, what does that mean to you from the community aspect to see, members of the community be so involved in AU football?
AU football isn't just at the university, it's not just the team, it is a community. This is a community's team, and to have people like Dave and his bank step up is huge for us. We like to be involved with them as well, and they help support us financially, and it's a great two-way relationship for us.
And Dave, what actually is Farmers State Bank? Give us the gist of what the mission is of Farmers State Bank.
We are a true community bank, so we don't have the big corporate folks to answer to. We have a local board of local business leaders and owners and local decision making. So everything is right here in the community, and we try to help impact the community in ways that we can.
Yeah, and what do you think the importance is to having that local community type feel to the business?
Well, it keeps a close tie to the community and the folks are in it. And you don't have decision making being made some big city. It's done right here in Ashland. We know the people, they know us, and that makes the difference from the banking perspective.
And what drew you to Farmers State Bank?
I've been there for 10 years. I've been tied to the Ashland community since probably the early 90s in my banking career. So got a lot of great friends and a lot of contacts in the community.
That's awesome. Coach Geiser, you think you ever do some banking or not up your alleyway?
You know what? I was actually pretty good with numbers in high school.
Okay.
Way back when. College, I kind of got off that path, and they started replacing all the numbers with symbols and letters. And so once it got to that portion, I'm out of here. I'm going to get to something else. So,
Same here.
But yeah, I actually had fun with that portion when I was younger.
Very interesting. You know, we talk about Farmers State Bank and the connection to the community. When it comes down to the student athletes, at the end of the day, those ones with the sponsorship is who you're impacting the most. And what do you think the importance is for Farmers State Bank to connect with university students and those individuals who are trying to take that next step in their life?
Well, I think we're able to help them at a very early stage, understanding banking and the importance of finance and what a bank can do for them.
Yeah, and when you talk about university students as a whole, and I think this could be a pretty good educational portion, what do you see some of the biggest laps in financial status for college-aged kids?
I just think that it's that lack of understanding from the bank's perspective what we look at.
Of course.
Just overall financial health. It's those things that we try to help give back to the community in those ways.
Yeah. And Coach Guys, did you ever see that in any of your student athletes where you're going, might not be the best purchase, might do some more money in a better way?
What's the phrase? Young and dumb.
Exactly.
It might be part of it there. I mean, at that point too, when I remember in the college years, you're living day to day. You don't even see 5 days down the road, much less 5 years or 50 years. So, it's excusable. It's part of growing up, part of maturing, and Dave and his bank help that with us.
Of course. And Dave, we talk about growth. That's a big thing for both the football team and obviously Farmers State Bank. What's the goal for Farmers State Bank moving forward? Any big picture ideas coming to fruition?
Just continue to grow in the community. The digital marketing in the digital world is a big thing. So, some of the bigger players have bigger pocketbooks to get all that flashy stuff out there.
Yeah.
We have those things as well. So I think that's always important. To grow with what the community and what folks are looking for.
Exactly, too. And with the broadcast sponsorship that you guys are doing, getting out on Flow College and the Rock Entertainment Sports Network, which is owned by Dan Gilbert of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You talk about the digital age, and it's a funny question for both of you. How have you seen both of your fields kind of evolve over time due to kind of the digital atmosphere? We'll start with you, Dave.
It's evolved quite a bit. I can remember starting back in the days where it was fax machine and fax papers, and in today's world, that's a thing of the past. So it's really it's changed. The banking is a relationship. I still think that's one of the most important pieces of the banking world that gets missed is that personal relationship. It's not just a computer or a iPhone that connects people.
Of course. And you as well, Coach?
I would definitely echo the sentiments on that. Even though there's a lot of technology in coaching now. I mean, our daggone video system is on a website.
Yeah.
Okay? The way that young people that we recruit communicate with each other is social media. But at base, despite all that flash and glitz and all that sort of thing, it does come down to relationships. Whether it's recruiting, whether it's coaching a player, whether it's trying to gain a loan at a bank. It's about building a relationship where there's a mutual trust on both sides. So despite all the advances in technology, you never want to lose sight of that portion of it.
We love to put people on the spot here, Dave. So we got to give your pitch to people to come to Farmers State Bank and and do business with you guys.
Well, I think we're the best kept secret around. We have local people. Building relationships, decision making isn't out of Columbus or Cleveland, it's right here.
I love it. Perfect. Dave, thanks so much for your time today.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll step aside. We'll have our player interview and coach to follow. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 6, right here on the Eagle Network.
Budget, save, invest. A plan to help you make smart retirement choices today. Your future self will thank you.
This ad has been provided by Donald M. Graham and Associates, where our dedicated team will help you meet life's complex financial challenges. Call Call today to schedule your visit at 1-800-322-6116. Securities and advisory services are offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, member FINRA SIPC.
Welcome back to Doug Geiser's show, Year 3, Episode 6. I'm Cade Krakenstern alongside Coach Geiser and now offensive tackle Nick Walker. Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you on here. Let's talk about this past weekend first to start. 500 total yards of offense, 55 points. What'd you see from the offense from your perspective?
Yeah, as an O-line perspective, I think we really helped out ourselves with our combos, and we were able to execute what we've been preaching all week with the certain schemes that we had going, and it just all kind of came together.
Yeah, you're going into a game on the road too. I think Coach Geiser is about 6-7 hour trip as well. You talk about having to play on the road. Was there any hiccups in that, or were you guys able to go out there smoothly?
No, it was. I thought normally with the road trips, so we do have kind of a slower start, but we were able to get after them pretty quick and early. So
yeah, and you talk about being able to get in those rhythms early and often. You've been able to do that because you've played so long with the program and been one of the staples up front for the guys. You talk about the ability to become an Ashland man. What's that meant to you over the course of your college career?
I think it's just been always like becoming a good leader, and then just helping out other guys and just being there for one another and just becoming a family and a group as a unit. Especially I look at the O-line, we're all brothers. It's a very tight-knit group, so that's really helped me out with that.
And Coach Geiser, what have you seen from Nick over his time as an Eagle?
It's been neat to see his growth and his development, his maturity, physically and emotionally, mentally, everything. Still remember going out to watch him play 3 times your senior year in high school, and including the last one was at Shelby. And I don't know if you remember your text to me the night before the game, say, "Hey, Coach, I might not play as much as I expected to. I got a partial AC sprain, a dislocated shoulder."
Oh wow!
They were doing a full speed trap drill the day before the game, a playoff game. So I don't know how that went down. But and so I go to the game, and he doesn't miss any time at all. He's still playing both sides of the ball, and ends up blocking another guy we were recruiting, one-armed. So we took the other guy off and offered Nick a scholarship. And the Eagles became a whole lot better because of it. But seeing his confidence grow as well, and seeing his growth as a leader. He's not a big rah-rah guy. He's not a big talkative guy, but he is a guy that's going to build a relationship as well, and he can talk to you on your terms and on your grounds and get the best from you. So he's done a great job. Him and Ethan Enders did a great job leading that room.
Yeah, and Nick, Coach just mentioned relationship, and I feel like that's something that was built, in your high school career heading into college. How important was it for Coach Geiser to connect with you and the Eagles to get so familiar with you in your senior year to be able to make Ashland feel like a home?
Yeah, I think what Ashland does different than other universities is that relationship during recruiting. Yep. Coach Geiser would text us every Friday wishing us good luck in the game, and he came to 3 of the games. And then we had another position coach who actually came to watch a basketball game as well. And then they just made it feel like home. Other places didn't really do that to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I came here.
Yeah, and when you talk about your time as an Eagle, it's filled with a lot of team accolades, but also some personal ones as well. I know you guys don't like to focus on personal accolades, but for yourself, all team for all GMAC, and recognized as one of the best offensive linemen in the country. What's that meant to you? Be able to thrive in a system that you've been able to kind of get adapted to here in Ashland.
Yeah, it's been awesome, the opportunity I've gotten here, especially after being able to play 4 years as well. And yeah, I've loved it all here. And it's always a shout out to my other offensive linemen though.
Yeah.
I gotta get them in there too.
Exactly. Well, guess what? Here's your time. Who do you love playing alongside? Who's your favorite guys to be up front with?
I'd like to say the whole starting 5, but Caden Riddle is my left guard, so
I love that.
I'll shout him out for that.
That's awesome. You talk about the team success this season. Only 1 loss. You guys have had to get used to having a new starting quarterback behind you guys in Cam Blair. How do you feel that the team started this year though?
I think we started off pretty well. I mean, we always, or not always, but last year we shot ourselves in the foot early as well.
Yeah. So
I like that we all have a high spirits and we kind of have everything ahead of us, like what always Coach Geiser says. So it's like we control our own destiny. So let's just go out there and do it.
Yeah. And what does homecoming mean to you? Obviously that's a big question we've always got to ask.
I think homecoming is just fun because you get to see all the players that you played with in the past. So I get to see some of the guys from 2022 who I played with, or even 2021, who will come back, and it's always a good environment.
Yeah. And Jack Miller Stadium. What's Jack Miller Stadium bring to the game?
Oh, a lot. You don't really feel the energy anywhere else that you do in Jack Miller Stadium.
Yeah, and Coach Geiser, I got to ask you as well. This offensive lineman room, you've been very, very talking about them in recent years. You like what you have up front. How have you seen them develop over time, and what's Nick mean to the room?
I'll start with what Nick means to the room. Steadying influence, and for 4 years now we haven't had to worry about left tackle. Knock on wood here. He doesn't miss practice, doesn't miss games. He's in watching. He puts all the time in preparation, and then he goes out and performs at a high level. So be able to have him as a rocket, you don't have to worry about left tackle. Now you focus on the 4 other positions. That's huge. That's huge. And I mean the importance of the offensive line room. That's Ashland football. That was way before my time. That was before my time. Coach Keller, Coach Martinelli, Coach Bronson before that. Ashland football is known for physicality, and there's no other embodiment of that better than the offensive line. So you always want to have a good group there to represent. It's always going to allow you to perform and compete with the teams best in the nation. Yeah,
and I got to ask you now, Nick. What's Coach Geiser meant to you over the past couple of years since he's taken over as the head coach?
Well, I think honestly, he always likes to ask us did he change from going to O-line coach to a head coach, and he hasn't changed one bit. I mean, having him as a position coach for 2 years, I mean, it's really just another day. He'll still coach us up the same. He's the same guy, but it's been awesome to see the transition for sure.
Well, Nick, I appreciate your time today.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Of course. We'll step aside and join you back here soon. We've got Tom and Stacy joining us next. You're watching Year 3 of the Doug Geiser Show, Episode 6, right here on the Eagle Network.
To the Great Midwest Athletic Conference, where greatness is achieved from heart-stopping moments to incredible teamwork and unyielding determination. This is more than a conference. It's a community of excellence where academic success meets athletic prowess and future leaders are forged. The Great Midwest Athletic Conference. Building character through competition.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 6. I'm Cade Crackerson alongside Coach Geiser, and now Offensive Coordinator and QB's Coach Tom Stacey. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good having you on here. We always got to talk the offense with you because obviously it's in your position title. Let's talk about this big win for you guys this past weekend. Obviously, you want to move on to next week,
right?
But 55-0, a big win for you guys at KWC.
Yeah, it was a great win, and it was nice to put up some points. With our schedule, we haven't had a chance to do that a lot here in the last 4 or 5 years with the tough non-league schedule we play and so on. And it was nice to be able to do that. It was good for our guys' confidence, and when you make a long trip like that, it's nice to come home with some points.
Of course, too. And we got to talk about, Ashland's had notoriously great quarterbacks in recent years, and taking a shift from Trevor Basinski to now Cam Blair. Two different skill sets, but when you talk about the ability for Cam to kind of settle in quickly in his first year as the starting quarterback, how have you seen him?
Well, I think he's gotten better each week, and that's kind of what, as a coach, a quarterback coach, or offensive coordinator, you're looking for is improvement week to week. Cam's been in our program a long time, but hasn't taken a lot of snaps until this year. But he prepares well, prepared himself for this task and being our number one quarterback, and has done a great job. And like I said, he's improved week to week, and that's been a big key for us.
Yeah, and Coach Geiser, it's funny, I feel like I haven't really connected this yet, but throughout the summer we talked about the quarterback position and what was going to happen there. Mm-hmm. And, you had talked about how you guys as a coaching staff were going to talk things over and ultimately, figure out who was going to be that starting quarterback and everything. What were the conversations like between you guys, when you talk about, shifting to that next era of AU football?
Well, it would have happened way before the summer even. It happened, after the season in the winter. And I've been with Tom for, probably close to 30 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And off and on there. And so the nice thing is, we think very similarly along the same lines, including how you evaluate quarterbacks and who that leader of the football team is. So, I have a lot of respect for Tom. I got a lot of trust in Tom as well. So when I would ask his opinion on it, take it into account, and a lot of times it was the same opinion I shared. So it's just basically a long, constant conversation after the Cal loss in the playoffs last year leading up to this season. So it wasn't just hey, it's time to do it right now. It's just kind of a living conversation all the way through the past 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, and Tom, obviously being so heavily involved with the offense and quarterbacks as a whole, you've seen a ton of quarterbacks over your time as a coach across high school, Division I, Division II, you name it. Any quarterbacks stand out to you in memory that you're particularly fond of?
Oh boy, I hate to.
I knew it.
I hate to do that. I've been blessed to coach some really good ones, and it's got very, very little to do with me, and that I can't be any more honest with that. We've had guys that have worked their tails off, had great talent, but worked hard, and I think that the most common characteristic that all of them have was toughness. And that's one of the things we go out recruit quarterbacks, whether it's Travis Tarnowski or Trevor Basinski or Cam Blair or Charlie Fry we had at Akron. We've had some good ones. Butchie Washington at Akron. But they've had the common denominator has been that toughness. Yeah. And Cam's got that also. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about the passing game for a bit here now, turning gears to the rushing side of things. Obviously, that was very well balanced against KWC. Over 200 rushing yards, multiple guys scoring touchdowns. You're able to get even Chris Maloney into the game, or one of the freshman backs.
Right.
What does that mean to the program to see both the passing and rushing attack be so fluid?
Well, that's one of our main goals on offense, is to have great balance between run and pass. We go in every week striving to do that. You can't always do it. If they stack the box, you got to throw the football. If you get hot throwing the ball and they play coverage, then you've got to run it. So you got to take what the defense gives you, so to speak. That's an old cliche, but there's a lot of truth to it. But it's nice always to have balance. And you've got to play more than one guy at running back. We're playing 3 guys. We could probably play 4 because they're going to take some hits. And you look at college football today, you can't get through a season with just one running back, and luckily we've got a stable there, and that helps us with our balance.
And I was just about to say too, Coach, you guys have been blessed at the running back position. In multiple years now, I feel like we've had this conversation of 3 or 4-headed monsters. Is that just what AU is, a breeding ground for some really strong running backs?
Well, we think so. Whether we've had Andrew Vaughn over the years. Obviously, Anthony Taylor's our all-time leading rusher. We've had some great players at that position, and
and we've got some good ones, thank goodness now, and it's a key to what we do.
Yeah, and Coach Geiser, we talked a couple different times on this show. I feel like it was mainly the first 1 to 3 episodes or so about the running back attack, and you wanted to see it be more fluid and be more dynamic and get more consistent numbers. You think it's evolved over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, you measure it 2 different ways. We measure it with explosive runs, and for us, an explosive run is anything over 12 yards. Okay, so the last 2 weeks especially, we've had some explosive runs. And then the other metric I usually look at too is run efficiency. And run efficiency, just going over real quick, is 4 yards plus on first down, half the yardage on second down, convert a third or fourth down or any touchdown. So we had our highest run efficiency day this past week against Kentucky Wesleyan. So we're trending in the right direction. And kind of echoing what Tom was saying too about the running backs is because of the physical component, there'll always be that here at AU in their offense. We attract running backs too, because they know it's not a pass and tap offense. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a physicality to it. They're going to get a chance to run downhill, and running backs usually like that.
Yeah, and Coach Stacy, we talked a little bit earlier about the time that you spent at different levels of the game, and the quarterbacks you've come across. What makes you so passionate to stay in football and cover so many different grounds?
It's a relationship with the players and the coaches, and I love the game, or I wouldn't stay in it for this long. But it's the relationships with the players and the coaches, and I love watching guys get better. Yeah. As student athletes and Division II, I think maybe the purest form of that right now in the NCAA in college, and I just love that part of it.
Yeah, and something else that I know a lot of AU coaches, players love is homecoming. What's it mean to you?
Well, it probably means more to our players than it does me. To me, sometimes it's just another game. But no, it's nice to see former players come back with their families, their parents, in one of the best Division II venues in the country that we have. We're so blessed to have Jack Miller Stadium and Martinelli Field and the whole complex and the Miss Center, and it's just nice to see everybody come back, and those relationships are, like I said before, something that you always cherish.
Well, Coach Stacy, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll step aside. We'll join you back here soon. Stay tuned. Our next segment is with former Coach Kettler. We'll be coming your way here soon with that, right here on the Eagle Network.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. My name is Dusty Sloan. I am the Director of Athletic Communications. We're going to talk about winning football here. I apologize for my attire. This is not winning football. But we are going to talk about winning football with current head coach Doug Geiser and former head coach Gary Keller. This is a treat for me because I get to work with Doug on a weekly basis in my current position, and I got to start my career at the Times-Gazette covering Eagle football with Gary as the head coach. So Gary, tell me a little bit about your career at Ashland University, obviously starting as the defensive coordinator for Coach Martinelli, and then as the head coach, you're an Eagle through and through. So tell us a little bit about your time here at Ashland.
Well, Dusty, I had great years at Ashland, and I was surrounded by so many good people. Well, I started off, believe it or not, as the offensive line coach for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And I loved working with the offensive line. They were great kids, okay? There was never a questions about whether I get to carry the football or not. Okay, it was always a group kind of thing, and we just had so much camaraderie among the guys. But then I went to defense after that when John Valentine retired, and I loved that too, okay? So that was fun. And then I got the head coaching job when Coach Martinelli retired and spent the next 10 years doing that. So that's a little bit about what happened during that time period.
And so many of your defenses in the 80s and 90s, and go back through the record books, and top defenses in Division II. So what made those defenses so great? I'm guessing what you're going to say is quite a few Hall of Fame type players, probably starting with Bill Royce, right?
Yeah, we had great football players, okay? And they had great dedication to the game, and it was important to them. And they wanted to do their best, and it was pleasure working with these kids. I mean, they just wanted to be good. And I remember so many times of going on away games to hotels where we'd be out in the hallway, and especially with Bill, walking through things and just talking about formations and different kinds of things, and we just had a great time. And it's the kids. It was the kids. It was the kids that wanted to do it, and hopefully you put them in a place. They always kid me about one defense. We played shade cover 3 so much during that time period. So I know we did more than that, but they were good. So I didn't have to do a whole lot with them.
And you were like so many people, coaches and players in the 80s and 90s, and even back in the 70s, but you weren't here. It was a badge of honor to play at Community Stadium, where you'd have to get ready at Sarver Field and then drive in your uniform up to Community Stadium to play the game. So what was it like to share the field with Ashland High School, have that Sarver complex to practice, and yet still have as much success as those teams had?
Well, I think our kids sort of enjoyed that kind of atmosphere. It was unique because we always joked about it in a lot of ways because, the high school played the night before, and if it was raining, it would be wet, and they'd put sand and different kinds of things, and then they'd run like a bulldozer over it to smooth it out. And I always said that was sort of our way of getting into AstroTurf. It was during that time when we started working on a hard surface, and we knew the field pretty well, but we took a lot of pride in being out at Community Stadium.
And Doug, I don't think you realized you had as much in common with Gary as I just said he was an offensive line coach.
I did not. I've known Gary for probably close to 20 years. I never knew that. I never knew you were fellow offensive line coaches. So I knew there was a reason he was a good coach. It's probably that.
But every time I talk about the history of Ashland football, you have a lot of reverence for the coaches who came before you, including Gary.
Yeah.
So 4 head coaches in this program since 1959. That's unheard of, and obviously you two are big parts of that. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with Gary and what you've learned from him over the years.
What I've learned from Gary is first and foremost, he's a good man. He's a good man. I had a chance to meet you, Coach. I don't know if you remember this. After we came in, and you were at Mount Vernon High School, and I came down from May recruiting.
Yeah.
And we ended up spending about an hour and a half, 2 hours just talking ball.
Yeah.
Just talking ball. And at the end of that, I commended Coach on his treatment of me and making me feel like I've known him forever. And just having a friendship all the way through the years with the camaraderie, as well, because like you said, there haven't been very many people in this seat. And so he knows a lot of the things I'm going through and vice versa. And there's a brotherhood with that. There's a brotherhood with players, there's a brotherhood with the coaches as well. And just having him there as somebody I can use as a sounding board has been really, really key.
one of the cool moments for me in my position now in year 11 was the first year that I was in this position in 2015. This is the 10th anniversary of Gary being inducted into our Hall of Fame. And we have homecoming weekend here. But what was that like for you, Gary, to get that call and to be inducted into our Hall of Fame? Because it was most certainly deserving.
Well, it was definitely special. Okay, that was probably one of the highlights of my career, being inducted into the Hall of Fame with all the great people that have been in that program. So I was very blessed in that way, and just so grateful for that to happen.
101st homecoming game coming up on Saturday, the rich tradition of Eagle football that way. And Gary, one of the great homecoming games, I mentioned it before we got on the air, I was 20 years old writing at the Times-Gazette in 1997, the iconic photo of Mark Molt carrying the ball in the sneak over the goal line to beat Saginaw Valley State. What did homecoming mean to you while you were here?
Well, it was a special time. I think most of the players that talked about this, Coach talked about it. It was just special from the standpoint of having the guys come back, being around family, and just being in an atmosphere where the excitement on the campus. You know, so many positive things have happened over the years to Ashland, not only to their football program, but to the academic programs as well. And to see that, I think as an alumni, you feel so good about what direction. Coach has done a great job with the program here, and the university has grown, like our facilities.
And that homecoming game in 1997 kind of put you in a position to win the MIFC that year and go to the playoffs against Slippery Rock. So homecoming not only is just a time to catch up with friends and everything like that, but it's a very meaningful game in your schedule.
Yeah, it was at that point in time. They came in, they were ranked at that point in time, and you probably wouldn't remember where they were ranked, but I think they were ranked.
I would love to tell you I do, but I don't.
But we started off and we beat Ferris State, who was ranked number 4 in the country, and then they came in at homecoming, and I think they were in the top 10 at that point.
They might have been.
And Jerry Keel, who is a great football coach, was the coach of their people.
Was.
And they ran that split back veer offense. And the thing I remember about the game was, and I'm glad you guys gave me a heads up that we're going to talk about this, but Jason Davis, if you remember, they ran a reverse right at the end of the game.
Yes, they did.
And to win the game. And Jason stayed in his position, made an open field tackle on that wide receiver.
He sure did.
And that guy got up and fell back down to the ground, and the game was over. So I knew, man, we hammered him, or Jason did. So we were happy about that.
And one of the features of that 1997 team was you ended up with an NFL kicker on that team named Tim Cedar. So
great kid.
That's a pretty good deal too.
Great kid. And he's coaching. His whole family is a athletic family. His dad, his brothers, and now Timmy.
Yeah.
So, Doug, let's talk about homecoming from your perspective. You've done this for more than 20 years here as an assistant, now a head coach. And we talked about this a little bit in the interview we do every Monday afternoon in your office. But homecoming, obviously you want to win the game first and foremost. But it's a great chance to kind of reminisce and think about the great Eagles that have come through here.
It's the word's probably you get a chance to reconnect. That's probably the most important word. You get a chance to reconnect. And for me, being here so long, the thing I try to let the alums know when they come back is I want them to meet our current players. One thing I did that was kind of nice when I was the offensive line coach, whenever an offensive lineman came back, I wanted them on the field at the end of the game. And I wanted them to meet the current group of guys, just so they could feel that brotherhood. Because as I would tell them, the names are the same, the faces are the same. The names are different, faces are different, but they're all the same guys. And I want them to feel that connection. You know, having to put up with Coach Geiser through all those individual drills, the endless individual drills, endless shoots and sled work, and just to let so they could all kind of feel that bond together and have a chance to win at a high level. And that's what Ashland is. Ashland's relationships is building. I think Nick mentioned that. You know, it's a neat to be a place that has that tradition, that celebrates that tradition.
And finally, before we wrap this up, Gary, I did want to mention something. Talk about Tim Rose as the defensive coordinator now. And his defense right now, top 10 in Division II in numerous categories going into this week. And you know a little something about that. So are there any similarities or possibly differences between the defenses you ran and what Tim's been doing the last 17 years?
I think there's a huge difference. Tim has a lot more problems to put up with than what I did back in those days. Back in those days, you had offenses that would try to run the football on you, And they would throw the ball some, but nothing like we're seeing today in today's game. So I would have a lot more gray hair on my head if I was still coaching at this point in time and trying to stop those offenses. And he does a great job with his staff and what he has done.
Thank you so much, Gary and Doug. This has been great. We're going to take a little bit of a break here and come back with the rest of the Doug Geiser Show here in a bit.
Need a construction team that can do it all? Bo Lacey Construction delivers experience you can trust, done right on time, with free estimates and special financing offered for roofing, siding, gutters, windows, bathrooms, decks, to the highest standards of excellence, quality, and knowledge in the industry. Bring your next project to life with Bo Lacey Construction.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 6. I'm Cade Krankister alongside Coach Geiser. Coach Geiser, it's been a long day. We've had a lot of segments.
Yeah, it's been good. We had a lot of good people on today, and a lot of good perspectives and memories, and it's neat to be able to share those.
100%. You know, let's talk about the perspective of facing a team like Thomas More. You know, a fairly new team to you guys. You know, just joining the conference. I think it was now 3 years back. This is year 3, I think, in the conference for them. What do you expect to see from Thomas More on Saturday?
Coach Norwell does a tremendous job with them. His staff, they are very well coached. That's the first thing that shows up on tape. Very well coached, and they're physical. They play the game the right way. For them, it is truly, you know, like very similar to like an IUP in the fact that it's about fundamentals. In order to beat this team, there are no smoke and mirrors. It's going to come down to blocking and tackling and being physical and all those sorts of stuff. That still travels, and that's what we're going to see on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think, you know, being a fairly new team to the conference, Thomas More presents a little bit of an issue in the sense of you don't really know how much, you know, they have to offer. And that's something actually we talked about in the past 2 years on the Doug Geiser Show when you guys have faced them.
Yeah.
You know, as you kind of get more and more used to them being in the conference, you think you kind of get a better feel for them?
You do. And they've had some continuity on staff and scheme as well. But the thing that people may not realize was they were a very, very successful team before they became Division II. Very successful in NAIA and across all sports. So it's a program that expects to win. And there's a confidence there because of that. And so that's, you know, you're facing that as well when you play Thomas More.
Yeah, and you guys' first meeting against Thomas More, 28-20, a fairly hard-nosed contest up until the final bit. Then last year, 28-3. You know, in the year's difference, you know, what is something that they offer that you guys are ready for year in and year out?
Well, on defense, they play a 4-2-5, okay. And a little bit of line movement, which can cause some issues in your combos and your double teams, and in man blocks especially. They've usually been pretty strong as far as pass rushers, and that's one that's one thing you've seen through the years. And usually the pressure usually comes from the down 4 as well. Offensively, they're very, very similar to Ashland in a lot of respects. They present a lot of different personnel groups. They can get big with you with tight ends and fullbacks as well, which not a lot of teams can do. So, you know, in a lot of respects, scheme-wise, it's almost like we're facing a team that, that's us. It's like, look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, and every week we've talked about the opposing team's quarterback and what they have to offer to the game. What is Thomas More looking like for their signal caller?
Well, they play two guys right now.
Okay.
They play two guys at various points, and each one has their own strengths. One's a little better runner, one's a little better passer. They both seem to be pretty decent leaders. So we're going to be prepared for a two-headed monster on Saturday.
Yeah, and now we shift gears and take a look at the aspect of homecoming. But first, I know you don't like to look back at things, but last year's homecoming was the 100th homecoming game, and that was a big one for you guys. You guys came out and beat Ohio Dominican 26-6. Homecoming as a whole presents a lot of pressure, and notoriously we don't really see blowout games in that fashion. They're very hard-nosed games. The opposing team's trying to beat you down on your homecoming and spoil it. Is that always something that you kind of think about in terms of what the other team brings?
Well, that's any week though, really.
Yeah.
In that respect, the thing you try to do is there can be a lot of emotion in homecoming. Just like with any rivalry game, I like to present the tradition and the history to the team, so they have a proper respect for that game day. It's not just another game, but in other respects, it is just another game. So the preparation that you're going to do throughout the week, getting ready for that opponent, still needs to be there. If you need a little extra juice because it is homecoming, because it is a rival game, so much more the better. But that's where that part comes in, and then afterwards, hopefully after a victory, if you're able to be successful, now you get a chance to share that with former players and friends of the program who've come back and take pride in the university and that tradition. You get to share that moment with them, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah. Anything different in the schedule for homecoming? You guys do anything differently?
I think maybe the only thing different might be the halftime's 5 minutes longer.
Okay. I didn't even know that.
I think that's usually the case.
Yeah.
That's usually the case. Other than that, no. It's we're creatures of routine, as you know. You've known me now for 3 years, and so that's we know at 4 hours before kickoff we're going to be having our pregame meal. 3.5 hours before kickoff we're going to have chapel, and 70 minutes before kickoff we're out for team stretch. Those are the things we know, and you kind of take solace in that routine and get ready to go out and play a good Thomas More team.
As we talked about a couple segments back, you mentioned earlier in the year one thing you wanted to see the team improve upon it was the running game.
Yep.
Is there anything specifically at this point in the season you want to see the team really take some big leaps in?
I would say consistency overall. Bits and spurts, you've seen outstanding play on all three phases. Now if we can just put a whole game together. Even against Kentucky Wesleyan, there were still some mistakes there that kind of got masked over because of the difference at the end of the game in the points. But there's still some things we're going to work on this week, and probably the biggest thing is consistency going forward.
Perfect. Well, we'll step aside one more time. We'll wrap up the show here in just a few moments with Coach Keller. So stay tuned. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 6, right here on the Eagle Network.
Need a construction team that can do it all? Bo Lacey Construction delivers experience you can trust, done right on time, with free estimates and special financing offered for roofing, siding, gutters, windows, bathrooms, decks, to the highest standards of excellence, quality, and knowledge in the industry. Bring your next project to life with Bo Lacey Construction.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 6. It's the conclusion of today's episode, but before we go, I'd like to talk to our coaches here to my right. You know, we talked with you, Coach Keller, about, you know, Ashland as a whole, but, you know, the coolest part about, you know, being able to speak to you is the fact that the culture, the community, and the bond that is, you know, Ashland University football lives on after your time as a head coach. What's that mean to you?
Well, that's really important to me. It gives me great satisfaction. I came to Ashland in 1982.
Wow.
In 1982, we had a gas station where the student center setting. Okay, we've had so much growth in the university, as well as our athletic programs. Our athletic programs are nationally known. And I think during that time period, we were still growing. Coach Martinelli did a great job in what he was doing, but we were patching things together. I look at our university and how it's grown and take great pride in being able, and I think our players, as they come back and look at the facilities, they're so happy, and they're happy to see the players playing and doing well. Okay, that's important. And I guess that's where I'm at as I sit here and look at the growth that we have made over the years. I'm very pleased.
I love that. That's amazing. And, you know, Coach Geiser kind of tees off of what we were just talking about. And, you know, you look at, you know, people coming out and supporting the 101st homecoming game. Mm-hmm. You know, what's your words of encouragement to get them out there and supporting you guys?
Well, I would encourage them to come out to the 101st homecoming. You get a chance to see the nationally ranked Eagles, one of the best defenses in the country, special teams that seem to change the game weekly, and an offense that's really starting to hit their stride. So if you want to see one of the best teams in the country, come on out, watch the Eagles play against a very tough Thomas More team this Saturday.
And that'll wrap up episode 6 of Year 3 of the Doug Geiser Show. We want to say a big thank you to the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department for all they do to make this show possible. A big thank you to you, Coach Geiser, you, Coach Keller, Nick Walker, Tom Stacy, our friends from Farmers State Bank, and everyone here at Buffalo Wild Wings who helped make this possible tonight, and our many Ashland University football sponsors. As a reminder, come out to the homecoming game this coming Saturday. It's the 101st celebration. If you can't make it, you can catch everything on Flow College, WRDL, and Fox Sports. So make sure to tune into all those different avenues on how you can catch all the action. But we'll step aside for now, and we'll see you next Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 6, here on the Eagle Network.